You hear a kid say something like, "I want to be a professor of happiness," and it just kind of stops you in your tracks. It's such a simple, beautiful idea, and it perfectly sets the stage for what we're about to get into.
So today we're diving into an absolute classic, The Magic of Thinking Big by David J. Schwartz. And this book makes a really bold promise. What if I told you that the real key to your success, your income, even your happiness, wasn't about your background or your education or how smart you are, but was actually just about the size of your thoughts?
And what I love about this book is that Schwartz doesn't just hit you with a bunch of theories. Nope, he kicks things off with a real-world puzzle, a story from a sales meeting that left pretty much everyone scratching their heads.
This was the big mystery of the day. Seriously, how can one employee in the same company selling the exact same products outperform everybody else by such a massive, massive margin? Okay, so picture this. The VP of marketing gets his top salesman, a guy named Harry, up on stage. But when everyone looks at Harry, well, he's just a totally ordinary guy. Nothing about him screams superstar. And yet, the VP tells the entire sales force, "Take a good long look at Harry." Here's why. The average salesperson in that room was making about 12 grand a year. And Harry? He was pulling in just under 60 grand. Now that's not just a little better. That is 5 times better. The question on everyone's mind was just, how? So the VP starts ruling out all the usual suspects. Was Harry some kind of genius? Nope. In fact, company tests showed he was decidedly average. Well, okay. Did he just work himself into the ground? Actually, no. The record showed he took more time off than most. Maybe he just had a golden territory? Nope, that wasn't it either. The accounts were basically the same for everyone. The mystery just kept getting deeper. So after he completely dismantled every common assumption in the room, the executive was finally ready to reveal the one simple thing that separated Harry from everyone else.
And there it is. That's the secret sauce. It wasn't about his IQ, his work ethic, or his resources. The difference was entirely in his mind. Harry simply thought on a scale that was 5 times bigger than his colleagues. And this right here becomes the core argument of the whole book. So the first big insight for you is this. Your success isn't really determined by the quality of your circumstances, but by the quality of your thoughts.
Okay, but what does thinking big really mean? Is it just some, vague positive thinking? Not quite. Schwartz argues it's about something way more active and way more powerful. Belief. And he draws a really sharp line between belief and just wishful thinking. See, wishing is passive. It's just hoping for a result, right? That whole, "I wish I could" kind of thing. But belief is an active, "I'm positive I can" attitude. It doesn't just hope, it immediately starts figuring out the how-to. It literally generates the power, the skill, and the energy to make stuff happen.
Let me give you a great example from the book. Schwartz tells this story about a young woman who decided, out of the blue, to start her own mobile home sales business. Now, on paper, her plan looked absolutely impossible. She had almost no money, basically zero experience, and everyone she talked to, bankers, family, you name it, told her the market was way too competitive. The logical advice was just give up. But here's the thing. She didn't just wish she could succeed. She had this deep, unshakable belief that she would. And that belief was so potent, it actually won over investors. It convinced a manufacturer to give her a whole lot of inventory with no money down. And get this, in her very first year, she sold over $1 million worth of trailers. So the second key insight is crystal clear. True belief isn't just a state of mind. It's an active force that creates its own opportunities.
All right, so when you see that kind of power in action, it raises a really important question. If belief is this powerful, why isn't everyone thinking big? I mean, what's holding us back? Well, the book points to a powerful and kind of invisible force, our environment.
Schwartz argues that we're constantly surrounded by this environment that just kind of tugs us down towards mediocrity. It's that chorus of voices always preaching about limits and scarcity and staying in your lane. It's an environment that quietly convinces us to be satisfied as just the little guy.
One of the biggest myths our environment sells us is that there's too much competition at the top. But is there really? A personnel executive told Schwartz he gets 50 to 250 times more applicants for $10,000 a year jobs than he does for $50,000 a year jobs. The fierce competition isn't at the top, it's on the crowded streets of average. First-class avenue, as Schwartz calls it, is actually surprisingly uncrowded.
So how do we fight back against this pull towards the average? How do we take control of our own thinking?
Well, this is where Schwartz offers this fantastic and super practical metaphor, the mental thermostat. He says, our belief acts just like a thermostat on the wall, and it sets the upper limit for what we can accomplish in life. It's basically the default setting for how much success we think we're capable of. And you totally see how this plays out, right? Someone with a low thermostat setting subconsciously believes they're worth little, so they end up receiving little. They shy away from big opportunities, and over time, their world actually shrinks. But then you've got the person who deliberately sets their thermostat high. They believe they're worth a lot, they believe they can handle big assignments, and so they do. They literally grow into the capacity that they've set for themselves.
And here's the best part. You control the dial. You are a product of your own thoughts. So the book's core message is a direct call to action for you. Adjust your thermostat forward. Believe you can succeed, and you will absolutely find the way. We'll end with this one thought from the preface, a quote that just perfectly captures the spirit of this whole book. Why would we ever settle for a small life or a small vision for ourselves? As the statesman Benjamin Disraeli put it so well, life is too short to be little.